Okay, this would be a real-time update, and eventually you're going to see a real-time. You always look at the dates too, because eventually you're going to see real-time reloaded. So you always look at the dates, but I'm going to put them on there because I'm going to upload it. I waited on a few things because when I read the news, today is what, Friday? Today is Friday, all right, the 22nd. June 22nd, 2018. You know, I read in the Color Times and in the news in general, some guy associated with Mr. Trump, maybe Corey Lewandowski, and so he made a derogatory comment towards Down syndrome children. Of course it's wrong. The exact comment, something. But it was interesting because the same source that exposed a bad comment about a Down syndrome child is basically called mainstream media, which some in the mainstream media who have advocated openly for abortion, have advocated openly for late-term abortion, and have mocked people that have tried to speak out against that. There's some in that side who advocate for the aborting of Down syndrome children. There's an entire country, now I forget which one it is, but they have basically tried to eliminate any woman diagnosed with having a child and they realize it's Down syndrome. They're trying to eliminate all of those children from the country through abortion. And so what I saw on that was the mainstream media, who also at times has defended the wiping out of all Down syndrome children, and in that case from a whole country, were outraged that Corey Lewandowski or a Trump person said a bad word about a Down syndrome child. Now, if I had a Down syndrome child and you said kill that child because it is something we want to eliminate, and then you later tell me you're mad, you're truly righteously indignant over a bad word spoken about that child, I would say you're hypocrites because of what I just explained. Now, I waited. I do not watch videos from local pastors. I do not watch video. I just have enough time, and I'm not able to review all of these. Like this one, I probably won't get to review, working on a post. But I check the churches I visit. The purpose of that is just to be part of the community. Now, some have talked about a crisis on our border recently. I didn't watch the videos, okay? And I was a little upset when I just saw that as a title, but then I also wanted to commend that brother, that minister, for dealing with issues, which I think is a good thing to do. You know, but then I thought, the crisis, if you are a minister, a pastor, whoever, and if you want to be engaged, don't let that voice of mainstream media, which I just showed you, don't let that voice be the one that tells you what a crisis is. Because we could have focused on our whole history of immigration. There are many countries and nations, and some who criticize us. Do you know, in Italy, just be informed. When you speak on crisis, be informed. Italy turns away people on boats because of we have a true migrant crisis in the world that's been going on for quite some time. And what you have seen in the media recently is driven by a political agenda. Some of those voices, whether it's Anderson Cooper, Rachel Maddow, whatever else, some of those voices advocate for other things or live lifestyles that are very antithetical to the Christian life. So you as a minister, pastor, whoever speaks out on issues, and I commend people for speaking out on them, don't allow that voice to be the one that tells you what a crisis is. You know, many years ago, I talked about a case a few years ago where some of the children that were being killed by our military, not on purpose, in an area between Afghanistan and Pakistan. I think we call it Waziristan. It's not in the news anymore. But what's happened in our fight against the Taliban, remember that one? That still goes on. America's longest war, by the way. Still going on. But in that war, to fight the Taliban, we tried to get particular radical elements, both now ISIS people, Al-Qaeda people, as well as Taliban people. We tried to get them and bomb them in certain areas in that mountainous region. But then there tragically was the death of, we killed some kids at a wedding party, we killed other kids. And so over time, because I read those stories, a little boy one day, and though he was a Muslim, he was with his younger brother. I think the boy was 12, and he had his younger brother, maybe 8, with him. They were picking up sticks to burn, to make food. And we made a mistake. The U.S. military made a mistake. And we admitted it, but we thought maybe they were doing like a device, a bomb or something. And we killed the kids, thinking they, and later, now some of those people, this is a few years now going on, some of those people tried to get lawyers. Just because they're Afghanistan people or Pakistan people doesn't mean that they're those kids. If you saw their faces, and not just separating them from their parents, but killing them, would you be mad? I was mad. It had to do with the whole drone wars and the use of drones. And I found it interesting how a lot of ministers not only were not mad, not only were not informed, but when we had our bombing in Iraq, we watched the mainstream media as well as a lot of ministers, preachers, and Christians saw the weapons. CNN, Wolf Blitz, all of them were saying, look at the magnificence of our bombing, as they showed on TV. Over time, there were indeed a lot of innocent people killed in that war. We tried to, but there was not only not an outrage, there was almost like, wow, look at what our military can do. I'm not demeaning our military. I'm saying, what is our Christian ethic on this stuff? And then to see some ministers call something a crisis, which is a problem, but I can show you real crises. I can show you times where many preachers, ministers were either unaware or even kind of rejoiced. Wow, look at that. But if I showed you one of those kids, if I had a video of that kid that was killed, that I just explained, you wouldn't, some of you don't even care. There's no concern. So what I would say is don't allow the media to drive you to believe in a crisis, to tell you some conservative, and I'm not one, spoke badly of a Down syndrome child, while some in that same media advocate for the elimination and destruction of all Down syndrome children. So that's all I would say on that. Okay, this is a little update. But I was upset when I saw people speak of a crisis. And the reason that they spoke of it is because they were informed by some in the media that are living lives that are also, if you will, a crisis. Don't let those voices tell you what a crisis is. I'm pro-immigrant to the point where I even am very liberal on that position. But I also recognize some of you might have seen the videos of immigrant children in cages. Did you see those pictures? Some were wrapped in tinfoil, and that just happened to be when Obama was president. Because the immigration problem in the country, at times, did indeed have children held in detention facilities. Now, those pictures, if they were consistently blasted, would you have said that was a crisis? Many of you thought that was but you supported, never support a person simply because of the race of the person. I was not anti-Obama, but many in the media and many in the Christian community overlooked some things that he did that were wrong, simply because you said, I want to make it look like I'm for a black man. And some of those same people, when I spoke out against the death of Sandra Bland, or you didn't speak out on those things. So we want to be informed by not just the media in this country, but researching. If you're going to speak out on issues, research them. If you saw the video of the kid that was killed, the one I gave you, if you were informed about it, then that too is a crisis. It's not just the separating of the crisis, the death of some kids that took place. And many ministers simply saw all of that through a paradigm of, look at what a good job our military did. I do not fault our military. I fault those that were in positions of authority, and in this case, George W. Bush, who started a war that was an unjust war, based on false intelligence, based on things that were lies, and then many people died. And many ministers couldn't care less about it. But then they're driven by pictures that we've seen this last week. And even when Mr. Trump made the executive order yesterday and said, I knew they would do it. And he basically said, all right, let's stop some conservatives didn't want him to make the executive order, which he did yesterday. He said, look, I'm going to make an executive order. Congress is not able to pass a law on immigration. Many on the left don't want it, many on the right don't want it. The left wants to keep it the way it is for political purposes. And then I read it. How did the media report it? Trump flip-flopped. Not good, he did something that we wanted him to do, an executive action saying no more separation of children from parents. No. And that's fine. But don't let that voice inform you, pastors. Please, be informed about all the crises that are going on. Be informed.